Yes, welcome again, Tamer El Said. And also, we're going to bring up to the stage Khalid Abdalla, who you will recall from the film. Gentlemen.
Hello.
I haven't seen it before on the big screen, and it's just stunning because I saw it on a monitor. I'm just going to ask a question or two because I want to get out to the audience, and we don't have a huge amount of time. Can you talk, and maybe both of you talk, about the character of Khalid? I feel that Khalid is you, and whether it is or does it matters, it may not matter, but I also feel that you must have had a great deal, not just in the acting, but in the creation of this character, because I know for you and the city and Cairo, it's also very personal to you. So if you can just talk about that character.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, for me, it's like I always say this thing. I don't look at the film as an autobiographical film. I also don't see something in my life that deserves to be on a film. But I think it's a personal film. So it's not autobiographical in the sense of like there is no events that is corresponding to my life, but it's also my life. I from the beginning I wanted to like I deal with Khalid in the film like what I share with him, that I feel he's stuck. He's in the middle of many things and he can't really move. What is inspiring for me in Khalid as a character inside the film, and what I can identify myself with it, is he is in this situation where he has he's between his memories and his past that he carries, and in dealing with a present that is very suffocating and can't see a future. And every time he's trying to find an exit, he can't. And for me, this is very cinematic. But when I look at the film, I don't see myself. This is very important. And this is from one side. From the other side, also working with Khalid was making like it made the character also different, like because this is what I wanted to create from the beginning. I wanted to work with someone who has a vision, and he can add to this character. So yes, Khalid in the film has something from me, but it has something fiction and it has something from Khalid. And I believe he added something very beautiful from his soul to the character. Yeah, I mean, it's also in the process of making the film, it wasn't like really an easy process because, for example, these friends are my friends, but also I see that what they build with Khalid is something different, and like having this kind of distance, and also at the same time being very close to everything was kind of painful in a beautiful way. I don't know if
Yes, that's perfect. Yes, Khalid.
God, I mean, for me, he's more than a character. He changed my life, quite literally. And I mean, as you'll know, the story of the making of the film took 9 or 10 years. It took 2 years to shoot, and we only finished it 8 weeks ago. And to be honest, there is a part of him which is Khalid as a character, who is something that we can talk about, and I think Tamer talked about very eloquently in terms of his position in relation to Cairo. But for me as well, there is a very crucial aspect where, I mean, he, from an acting position, it's really, for me, it was both a position in the world as well as on the world. Before this film, I didn't live in Cairo. I lived in London. Before this film, I'd never edited. Before this film, I'd never myself actually picked up a camera. And we sort of have a joke that everyone in the film more or less played a version of themselves except me. I played a version of who I would become. And as an experience, I think in many ways that matches also some of the other meditations, if you like, that the film kind of captures on the idea of time. And this idea of what a moment is before something happens, but is also immensely present in the moment that happens afterwards. And for me, the film both opened up and entirely changed my everything, where I live, what I do, what I think, who my friends are, and opened an entire world. And it's a tribute to Tamer as well as to the extraordinary range of people who made this film that, in a sense, it was an impossible film, which is why it took so long to make. But in that impossibility is a confrontation with the world. Is a confrontation, I think, with our stories, and why certain stories we get to see and hear and find familiar, and why there are other stories which I think don't exist or barely do, and what that means politically in terms of our public space and in terms of what we say about regions that we go to war in, or regions that we exist that are in war or are in revolution and so on. And to go back to Khalid, in a very simple way, I think he lives that tightrope. And he doesn't live it as a hero. He lives it as a guy who is kind of scared that he's a failure, kind of like we all do. And that's also partially what makes him very difficult. He almost doesn't like himself. And I think in general in cinema we tend to love characters who we want to be. And it's also part of that difficulty of how to position yourself. It's sort of all of those things, if you like, that I find in him.
Yeah, and what does find him so fascinating. I can continue on this, but I actually do want to turn to the audience and get your questions. The gentleman, the second row to the back. And if in the back, if you could speak up very loudly because I'm having trouble hearing with the air conditioning. Oh, okay. I hope you heard the first part is about if events that have unfolded impacted the film, the making of the film, since it took so long. And the second question is Layla Cairo.
So, I mean, we finished shooting 6 weeks before the revolution, and and then it was actually because of many financial and production issues. What was planned to be 3 months of shooting turned to be 2 years. So we supposed to finish the shooting in April, March 2009, and we finished in December 2010. And of course, that was very frustrating and tiring and exhausting, and everybody was very exhausted. So, but 6 weeks after, what happened, and then everybody was saying to me, and this is very important because it was a moment when I saw all my friends who were holding a camera for the first time and filming in the streets without being scared. And that was, for me, something very, very, like it's a turning point. When you see, and some of them are here. And I think we all remember this very well. I was, like, everybody was saying to me, you have to shoot something during the revolution. It's like, your film is about this, your film is about this. And then we decided to shoot, actually we shoot like maybe a quarter a day during the 18 days, but it didn't feel right. Like, we didn't feel it's the right thing to do. Like, we were filming for 2 years in the streets of Cairo, using Cairo as a backdrop for everything, for every shoot, trying to capture something of the soul of the city, and it always felt right. But at this moment, it didn't feel right. Like, it felt like it's not related to the film. And I wanted the film to stay very loyal to capture this moment before the revolution. And I think in this way we were very lucky, because due to this kind of production obstacles and the lack of financing that stretched the shooting over 2 years, it also allowed us to capture the last 2 years of the city before the revolution. Then through the whole process of the editing, and I hope you can imagine this thing, I'm living in Cairo. This is, these streets are the streets, I'm living in downtown. Actually, I live in the flat that Khalid is using inside the film. This is my flat. And I walk these streets at least 2 times a day. And I see these characters every day. And I'm affected by everything is happening around me. And sometimes I was spending the whole day editing a scene and put some characters together, and then I leave after the shooting, and then I meet the same characters that I was editing in the street, and sometimes wearing the same clothes. But it was like 3 years after or 4 years after, and many things happened, and then I was asking myself all the time, did something change or nothing has changed? And this thing about moving between after and before, like, for example, I give you this scene when the friends are gathered on the rooftop looking at Tahrir Square and speaking about the change. We shot this scene, I think, in February 2010. So almost a year before the revolution. We didn't know that a year after, and all this, you know, like all this conversation between our friends, like this is another topic, like how we were building the scene, how we were rehearsing, and then to which extent we improvise, and then we re-improvise, and we build the scene while we are making it. This is another story. But of course, we didn't expect at this moment that a year after, this square will be the symbol of the change in the region. And then when I'm editing this scene, even like the square itself has changed, like the landscape. And like then how to position yourself. But I was also very aware that I want the film to work all the time, and it's not related to, you know, this is very sensitive issue, because, you know, I think films are slightly different than current affairs. And it's very risky if you make a film that is connected to certain events, because then a year or 2 after it becomes out of time and very old. So I wanted to keep the film capturing a certain moment and loyal to it, and works at any moment. Like this year, in 10 years, like I don't know. And this is what I try to do. I don't know if it happened or not, but this is. So at the same time, it's very difficult to see all these things happening around you and just ignore it. So yeah, I don't know. Did I answer? Because yeah.
Yeah, I think you did, actually.
The second thing about Layla, I mean, I don't know, maybe. Like, I also, I also like, you know, I like them all, and I actually am very happy with how Layla, like, it's also, it was really a great collaboration with Layla and Khalid in their scenes. Um, for me, I like that she doesn't talk much, but I feel that she, like, I don't know. Yeah, it's very difficult to answer this, but yeah.
I thought Khalid's mother at one point was Cairo.
The mother is my mother.
could be but I thought she could also represent the city and be your mother. Yes. So I'll just repeat very briefly, and it's more what we were talking about earlier, the relationship and the collaboration of all three of you, the two of you and your mother, in those scenes.
Like I'm very lucky. Like I had a great mother. Like, and she's a great woman. Of course, she was a great woman. You know, it's very difficult. Like this, like it was. I would say, like the decision to. The thing is, when I was thinking of the film, when I started to think of the film. My mother was part of the story, of course, but she wasn't sick. But because of the gap between when we started to think of the film and then when we started to make the film, like over this 2-3 years, she got really sick. And then I had to make a decision of should I remove these scenes. Of course, I spoke to her and I asked her, and I think she wanted to, before she wanted to also release this story about my sister. And I thought it's important to give her this chance. This is from one side. From the other side, I was very, because you know, shooting is, we tried our best to make it very comfortable for her, but of course, I was very skeptical and scared of this moment. But then, the doctor, who was really a great woman also, she said to me, I think this is what she needs from you. She needs to feel that she is needed. And she can give you something even at this moment. So I introduced her to Khalid, and it was like, I think we both remember this moment, and it was very special. Because ironically, I also had, I didn't know this thing. Ironically, I also lost another brother, and his name was Khalid. So she used to have a son called Khalid also. So I think it was what was very strange for me, that after these 2 days of shooting inside the hospital, I think my mother had a week where she was just shining. She was very happy and kind of smiling, and she was, yeah, but then, yeah.
I mean, for me, I was situated between two extraordinary gestures of love. I mean, from Tamer to his mother, and from his mother to him. And I mean, in that situation, I don't know what I was. You know, it was like you can feel certain breezes coming towards you, and you let them happen. And that was, I mean.
Yeah, like the most difficult thing, I think one of the biggest agony during the editing is to, know, there is always a responsibility when you present someone on screen. I feel this thing, and it's not an easy, it's not like, it has to be really serious, because, and then it's very difficult when you presenting someone who cannot defend himself or herself because he is not there anymore. So I think like the doubts I had about these scenes, and just like, is she really what she meant to say, or is it the right thing to do, asking everybody around me, talking to my family, it's like it, but yeah, I mean, in the end of the day, I hope she's happy with the film.
I thought they were just actually wonderful scenes. I think you did a fantastic job, and it probably was the right thing to do. You got just brilliant moments. And I would say, I think we do have to end at this point, and it's probably a very good point to end, because what you've done, not just with your mother, but all of it, they are the things that are personal, but that are not, and actually creating something new. And the idea also of these things that are very personal to you, of these cities, but also, and this time and this place, but also things that speak to all of us, universal things that speak to all of us and can get to us personally. At least that's how I felt. I thank you so, so much, both of you, for this film.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.